Here we go. Here we go.
All right. Here we are. Welcome to DM and Friends. I'm DM Angelo, and I'm here with two of my buddies, Chris Clark and Michael Webster. Yeah, so tonight's topic, we're gonna talk about what makes old school D&D feel different, in our opinions. And I just wanted to be super clear that we're all old school players, and this is not a version bashing session at all, right, guys?
Well, I'm not planning on that. No.
So
plans can change.
Yeah, you never know. Never know.
Never.
I really cannot stand 6th edition.
Oh my god, that is the worst.
Yes. It is.
So yeah, we kind of wanted to talk about this subject. And first of all, by the way, Michael, buddy Michael here, he in our campaign, he plays Irvin the Reluctant, a paladin, actually a lion from issue 106 of Dragon Magazine, all the alternate paladins. And yeah, Michael, tell everybody about yourself since
Okay. I started gaming in '82 when I was first introduced to 1st edition. Been playing that off and on. Over the years, I've gotten involved with the RPGA. I've written adventures for Living Greyhawk,
nice,
for Living Force, and Living Arcanus. I've done play testing, including the Monster Manual 3, I believe it was. I'm also responsible for the rename of one of the monsters in that book.
Nice.
So if you ever see a Gravorg, then you know that's what I called it.
Nice. What version was that?
That was
3.5.
Yeah, 3.3 to 5.
Nice.
See, I've been involved in a bunch of conventions, mostly local, and I've started my own company, WebStar Enterprises, to produce gaming materials for tabletop gaming, of course.
Nice.
Is there anything else?
And so you got stuff on Drive-Thru, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have to throw that link in the show notes.
Under WebStar, yes?
Yep, under WebStar.
Okay. Oh, WebStar. WebStar. What other one that way? So, anyways, yeah, let's get right into it, guys. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is, and it's termed everywhere. I mean, there's other casters out there that talk about this. I think we've talked about this a million times, but rulings over rules. I think that to me is a big part of what attracts me to the old school gaming. There were rules were guidelines. They weren't gospel. They weren't set in stone. For me, if I wanted to use weapon speed, or I don't want to use weapon speed, it doesn't break the game. It does not at all break the game. If I want to use morale, if I want to use loyalty, if I want to use all these other mechanics, I can choose not to. And that for me is probably one of the bigger things. Chris, what do you think about this?
Well, wait a minute. What about charisma reaction bonus? Because that's a game breaker. No, I'm kidding.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's weird. I get annoyed as a GM, and probably that's a sign of a behavioral issue that needs attention. When the players can tell me what happened in the fight instead of the other way around. Now, if you roll a 20, gosh, yes, you can scream out, "I got a crit." And believe me, it will do more damage than you thought humanly possible. But when they tell me, well, you can't do that because, in 5th edition, the rules say they don't have this ability. And I just scratch my head and say, yeah, except in my world they do. And that's unfortunate for your character, but it's true. And don't get me wrong, I play and enjoy pretty much all of the editions. Frankly, and I know Michael was somewhat partial to some of the aspects of it. Fourth edition I found to be a really great miniatures game versus being a really great role-playing game. But I don't, it should be about when your character does something innovative, or you tell me, after I do a flying leap through the air, I make the symbol of Cuthbert, like so, with my 2 weapons, and then I strike with, and that should get you some kind of a bonus. And if there isn't a rule for it in later editions, you don't get a bonus, which is wrong.
Yeah. That's up to the DM.
So my ability as a GM in first edition to show appreciation for character role-playing innovation is unhindered, completely unhindered in first edition. It's not necessarily prohibited in later editions, but I do find it to be hindered.
Yeah. What about you, Michael? What do you think there?
Well, I think there are occasions where you have to stick to the rules. It's like with the living campaigns. House rules would screw up a living campaign. For example, I lived in Michigan for a while and was playing Living Greyhawk there. But when I came back home to Utah, if I had there were home rules back in Michigan, they might not apply in Utah. So by sticking to the rules and the letter of the rules, at least for the most part, that's a necessity. And I think that I kind of disagree with Chris a little bit, is that you can do some adjudication of somebody's creativity. I mean, I've done that even in RPGA. It's like, oh, hey, somebody really does a good job at describing what their character is doing, whether it's an attack, whether it's talking to the tavern master, whatever. Drop in a +1 or a +2, depending on how well they do. If they come up with something creative, let them roll for it and see if it works. I think it's never used it in the past, but it's the rule of cool, I think, applies quite a bit in whichever edition.
Yeah, good point. It's kind of up to the DM, regardless of what to say, what version you're playing.
I would say less so in later editions. Again, it's not prohibited; it's hindered a little bit.
It's kind of pushed to the. It's a.
Well, I agree with everybody, Angelo.
It might be a
exactly
kind of a backhanded way of doing it, since everything is so enumerated in later editions. A lot of GMs think that they can't. It's like it says this, ergo that. Whereas in OSR, you kind of have the implicit freedom into doing it.
One thing that kind of piggybacks on what you're saying is, I've noticed, if you think about it, back in kind of old school, you'd have a description for a monster that's this big. It leaves to this much imagination. And then nowadays you have a description of a monster that's this big, and the next page and the next page. So it's really kind of set in stone. And so that, I think that kind of hinders some DMs that, okay, it's not in here, I can't do it. And back in the day, I that small description really left me to interpret a lot.
I both agree and disagree. Go figure. It's while it has that certain amount of description in later editions, you don't have to stick to it.
Well, that's exactly, you're right.
You can tweak it how you want. I think one of the differences is that in OSR, you have stats for a kobold, and then you have stats for an orc, and then you have stats for a bullywug. Whereas in later editions, you have a kobold sling master.
Yeah,
You have
that's
a bullywug brawler. You have a
Southeastern kobold, yeah.
you know a midtown kobold.
There you go. All right.
Whatever. So you have kind of that placement, which I think takes from the computer game genre.
yeah.
I have a story that very, very generously, I think, explains what I'm trying to get at with the hindrance versus an all-out prohibition, which does not occur. I used to write tournament modules that I would just do one full dress publication of in classic TSR looking style, and they would sell it at the Gary Con auction. And I would run it though twice during the con. And I remember having some fifth, and they were 3.5 players. They were not fifth edition players. And then one player, it was all about this. The final boss fight was this large plant, sentient plant that lived in the bay that was a kraken plant. Okay. And it's trying to kill the party, and you're trying to get something from it. And one of the characters during play has come across a scroll of plant control, which is actually a very low level druid spell. Whereas one of the other players has a mage, okay, who has a suggestion spell. And the mage is looking for one outcome that will not help the party so much, but will help his character, versus the druid character is looking for an outcome that helps the party, and cannot believe that the plant control spell is better, more apropos to the situation than his suggestion spell, because suggestion's fourth level, and it should therefore trump a first level spell. And I said, that's not how first edition works, my friend. The more applicable the spell, the more spot on it is to the situation for which it is being used, the better the chances that it's going to take precedence. Well, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Was the reply. And he actually got up and left my game.
Wow.
And everybody else was like, dude, are you pissed off? We're not all going to die because of this. No.
Yeah. All right. I think that kind of rounds out the first point that I was threw out there. The other one, the other point that I'm kind of, I think's relevant here is player ingenuity over character ability. And for me, for me, how that is I like to make my characters go into a room and tell me where they're going to search and this and that and kind of figure out the puzzle, not just walk into a room and do a spot check or make a roll stating, and then I have a script that I read and tell them, oh, okay, this is what you found based on your roll. There's that's a good and bad to that. I think that it's later editions kind of got out of get very role based, skill based, and yeah. So, anyways, what do you think about that, Chris?
It's fun. Folks here probably don't know because this is like our second or third show. I play a cleric in Angelo's campaign, and we play an OSR / first edition style campaign. So I find a book on an altar, and he tells me it's written in clerical text script, so you can understand it, but it's radiating evil. And while you can read those words, do you want to? And so the first thing I'll ask him is, well, in my studies as a cleric, have I ever seen something like this or talked with someone with greater knowledge before? Do I have any knowledge of this book? Yeah. And of course, if we were playing 5th edition, you'd say, well, make a lore skill. Oh, you don't have lore. You don't have a lore skill. So I don't know. It's going to be a pretty slim chance because you don't have a lore skill, instead of, well, gosh, you did study with this guy for a week when you were last in Hommlet, and he is the guy that pointed you on this path to defeat this specific evil. So yeah, maybe you did. Give me a wisdom roll. When you don't have the skill necessary, and there is a skill necessary for a certain type of check in later editions, it's basically assumed you simply can't check, or that your odds are so low as to be almost non-existent.
Yeah.
And that's just not true in 1st edition.
Well, anyone can try to pick a lock,
Right.
but certain people are a lot better than others. And I think that because I don't have that skill, I'm not going to try it. And I think that's kind of a big difference between old school versus new school is, I mean, in OD&D, everybody would try to bash that lock or open that lock or, yeah, that's definitely a good point though. How about you, Michael?
Well, I think, at least with earlier editions, a lot of the possible skills that your character might have might be at least hinted at in your backstory. Like, for example, Irving, he actually started out going to be a cleric, either at the library or at some village before he got called by St. Cuthbert.
Mm-hmm.
So it's entirely possible that he knows how to read different languages. He's probably pretty well read. So it can be interpolated from that he finds a book, he might know what it is, how to read it, what it contains, different information for that. Whereas with later editions, your characters are detailed as to what they can and cannot do.
Yeah.
If for example, if your character only has a +0 in religion in whichever edition, then that character is going to be very unlikely to read the book that Chris has found.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so with earlier editions, you're able to, I don't think there's an appropriate term for it, but fudge it.
Yeah.
No, I think it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I just flashed on, excuse me, Irving. It's St. Cuthbert. Will you accept the charges? It's when you got the call.
So, I mean, for example, when we had to get through a locked door, Irving was able to pick the lock.
Yeah.
Of course, he was using St. Cuthbert's lock pick. Nice heavy mace to the door, but it works.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. It's funny when you talk about that because we use that backstory of yours in our game, where you found the books and you're very studious and you were able to kind of interpret a lot of stuff very quickly. So yeah, it worked very good. Yeah, I just think that the skill based system, because in the old OD&D BX there was no skill system too.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that really came out with the Dungeoneer Survival Guide and the Wilderness Survival Guide and Oriental Adventures, where they started adding skills, and that was even after Unearthed Arcana, and yeah, so yeah,
you did have weapon proficiencies and thief skills. That was the entirety of the skill set that was first edition.
Yeah,
but that was it.
Yeah, and OD&D, and those, 100%.
Weapon proficiency and the thief skills, and if you're a mage, you can read arcane.
Yeah, at a certain level.
Yeah, and if you're not a mage, if you're a cleric, you can read ecumenical script or whatever it might wind up being. Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think it's one of the things that later editions, because they're so detailed on what your character can and cannot do, it's probably precludes that a GM or even the player doesn't want to try and see if it's some trivia that they may have picked out. I mean, that's one of the things in Call of Cthulhu. It's that, you could make a no roll, see if, this is something that you happened across at a seminar at one point, or it's a bit of trivia that you were that you came across reading a book or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas there isn't exactly something like that outlined in the later editions. A GM could, again, fudge it, you know it. But I think that's what especially a lot of current players who have not played earlier editions aren't used to.
Yeah.
In my example too, if I saw the book and I screwed up my wisdom roll, the very first thing I would do is say, "Hey, Irving, why don't you come take a look?"
Yeah.
And these days, if your character didn't have a lore skill, you'd be like, "Oh, because I don't have lore skill."
Yeah.
And instead, it would be, "Yeah, maybe I have seen something like this before." One side cleric.
Yeah. So on to that was very good. So on to the next point. This is just my opinion, and I can kind of outline the power creep of this, but I feel like OD&D basic, those two, man, deadly in the fact of 0 is dead. 0 hit points is dead. Now that changed in AD&D. Think about it. You can go to -10, and the interesting thing about that is if you did go beyond, I think it's -6. There's huge consequences. You're either losing a limb, or you have to rest for a whole week, or et cetera, et cetera. A lot of times we fudge that and don't play that way, but it slows down gameplay. But that power creep, it really actually started in AD&D, where the deadliness
it's fine.
was lessened a little bit, because think about it in BX. You have a 4 hit point character, 1 hit from a sword, you're dead. Now I'm rolling a new character. And that was also the great thing about those, you just roll a new character. I'm not so invested in it. Roll a new character, roll a new character, roll a new character. So I think the risk in the, and not that it doesn't happen in later editions, but I think the risk is that sense of dread and risk and is a little bit more heightened to me, anyways. Yeah. So, anyways, what do you think about that, Michael?
I kind of agree with you. The later editions, of course, have multiple death saves.
Yeah, that's
it's that sucking chest wound might suddenly stop sucking.
Yeah.
Stop it, Chris. Stop it. No. Bad Chris.
He's over there.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Don't make me get the hot brick. So yeah, you don't have the threat of loss like you do in later editions. And I think that kind of is a deterrent for players of more recent editions to playing first edition, because a lot of stories I've heard, and I've had characters like this, that I don't want to die.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, if they're gonna more likely die in a first edition, why play that when I can play 5th edition and I've got 5-6 death rolls or whatever?
Yeah.
You're a cat.
One thing that I want to double click on that is it kind of forced the group, because I know as a player and even as a DM, I've seen a lot of this happen. Back in the day, we didn't fight everything.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't go into a room and fight every single thing, because that threat of losing that character or et cetera, is real, and so parlaying or, bullface running.
You can still get that in later editions.
Yeah.
But players aren't accustomed to that. For example, I wrote for Living Greyhawk for Furiondi an adventure where the party would meet another party of drow. Now I wrote it in the adventure that says that the drow will say, "Okay, we're just leaving.
Yeah.
It's best for you to let us go." And that the characters still get, experience for that encounter. Usually, for most cases, it's from wetting themselves.
Yeah.
I found out that one player decided that he had to take on the drow. Well, one of them was a priestess who ended up doing a whole person and punished this character by cutting off one of his fingers. And so Ingenuity goes like, to remember me by, and then leaves. Everybody survived. And I thought that was a genius move for the DM who did that.
Yeah.
But a lot of players will go in expecting that they can fight and kill everything.
Yeah.
Running, and I say this all the time, running is an option.
Yep. Or figuring out a different way.
Yeah.
I don't know when you two guys first saw the original Conan movie, right, with Arnold, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's her name comes from the dead and grabs the one sword that's descending and looks him right in the eye and says, "Do you want to live forever?" To those of us, when there was only first edition out, oh my God, did that have impact?
Yeah, that was cool.
These days, the kids watching go, okay, what's the big deal, Dan? I don't understand.
Conan and Conan the
character,
Oh, what's your take on that, Chris? On that topic?
Well, that's the thing, because we all had characters that were uncomfortably close to no longer being characters at one point or another.
Yeah.
And knew what that fear was like.
Yeah.
Whereas these days, I don't think they have that same feeling. I don't know for sure, because I can't be those people, but I get the feeling that it's a little bit more like a video game where it's, oh, you're going to have to go back to your last checkpoint. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have heard of one person being triggered at the possibility of the loss of their character.
Yeah,
in a more recent edition. And it's like, okay. And basically because of that, refused to play.
Because it should be such a remote possibility. I mean, that's what that sounds like it comes down to.
I mean, I can understand the unwillingness to go into dangerous situations, especially, you've got a great backstory and you've developed this person, you've got from the time they were born up to the time when they left the academy or wherever they were trained. You've got that all plotted out and written up, and then your character goes in and is murdered by a kobold. And it's like it can be disheartening. It can be, in a lot of cases, frightening.
Yeah.
Which is, like you said, there is that risk of having your darlings get killed.
Well, especially since in the old days it took quite a while to get to level 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. So it leads to my next point. Before the internet, I mean, stories were shared, word of mouth, conventions, so to me, the community shared mythology. We were limited. We were super limited. I mean, we did have Sage Advice when that started coming out, but I mean, who had Dragon Magazine? I mean, I had a couple copies, but that's before the internet. I mean, there's so much information out there right now. Think about it. I mean, for modern GMs, which is great. I mean, it's super awesome. It's super, super great. But I think what makes it a little different is we were limited to our circle. And I don't know if any of you guys ever, well, Chris, you probably didn't, but I don't know if you'd ever did. Michael wrote into TSR to ask him for a clarification on a ruling, or how do you handle this? Or, blah, 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 or you guys just talked about it amongst your group and decided, or went to a con and saw how other people were doing stuff. I think that's definitely a very different point for old school gaming.
Well, for one thing, the internet did exist way back then, but the only ones who had access to it where like universities and that,
Yeah.
and information would be shared over listservs, which can be a pain to get to and sort.
Well, in 79 and 80 and 81, I don't know if they were, but
yeah. But it's like I say, it's not as ubiquitous as is now with the web, but I mean, keep in mind, there's a lot of the people who had access to the internet and like universities or research laboratories were nerds like we are back then. And so they would share this stuff back and forth. But back for us regular people, we just had our local groups. It's like one of the things that I used to do when I was stationed in Germany is that since I had weekends free, I would grab my player's handbook, hold it in my hand, have my backpack with the other books, and I'd go to the rec center, plop down, and to see who wanted to learn.
Who flocked to you?
Play.
Yeah.
So, and it's,
I love it.
That's one of the things that I did. I then, at that point, I came up with an idea of kind of a matchmaking service. But that was, back in 88. And so it wouldn't have been internet driven. So it had issues. But, you usually found somebody by displaying your nerdiness.
Yeah.
And, it's...
You find your people.
Yeah. And if
we have clubs all over the place. Seriously.
Yeah.
And they're different than clubs are now. Like the first 2 or 3 meetings, everybody just get together and tell old war stories. We don't even play. It's like, I had this 11th level paladin, and then suddenly this dragon came up and like ate his head, And,
yeah.
And
we found out there were groups up at the University of Utah, but since we were high school students, we couldn't really go to those.
It was a little bit in the Midwest,
And here in Utah, at least until the late 80s, early 90s, there were no conventions here.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a big reason for that, is that Utah, or especially Salt Lake City, at one point was a no-go for conventions.
Satanic panic.
Well, back in
no, actually, it was because during one of the earlier conventions, I think in the late 70s or early 80s, someone absconded with the money for a convention. And left a lot of people high and dry, including I think it was Anne McCaffrey.
Oh, geez.
Yes,
the Pern person.
So, that pretty much got Salt Lake City blackballed for decades.
Yeah.
Our high school club, for instance, and I went to a high school with a graduating class of 198 kids was in the graduate. That was it. Okay.
Oh,
it was a small school.
That's a tenth of what we had.
Well, we had 11 kids in the D&D club in 1976.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Because that's how you ran into players. And so if you went ahead and just had bought, spent a fortune, like $18 to get the 3 core books, because out here in the Midwest, they were also on sale usually for like $6. You didn't want to waste your $18. So you went ahead and immediately said, well, if we don't have a club, can I establish one? And that's, the College of Lake County, which would have been, 4 years ahead of me, so to speak. They had something like 80 players in 1976. And props to Wild Bill Morrison, but still,
Wow.
Well, I think universities were great for that, because you would get students from all across the country.
Yeah.
And
not so much at College Lake County, but
all right, let's
junior college.
Let's move on to the next subject or bullet point. And Chris, you brought this one up, so I'm going to introduce it, but you're going to take it away on this because you called out player-controlled outcomes versus GM-controlled outcomes. And I'd like for you to elaborate on that subject.
Well, and the story I told earlier about, Suggestion's a 4th level spell, and plan control is only 1st level, so suggestion has to take precedence. Okay, that would be a player controlled outcome, or at least a player thinking he was about to get a player controlled outcome.
Yeah.
And it is common, or more common, in the more modern versions, that the players have greater control over outcomes in combats, encounters, all sorts of things. Whereas in original D&D, oh my goodness, the dungeon master was absolutely God. He made the call. That was it. You could try and reason with the dungeon master, but you couldn't just tell him, no, it doesn't work that way. And oh my gosh, yeah, that happens these days. I understand why they went to a system that has greater player control, because my generation was raised on black and white TV, and if you had a really rich friend, maybe you had a Betamax movie or two, and a Betamax player. Versus that generation was raised on The Legend of Zelda and Nintendo, and so they had a different role-playing experience prior to trying D&D. Frankly, the most recent generation grew up with World of Warcraft and all sorts of things that, and don't get me wrong, I played World of Warcraft until I decided it was taking too much time, so I enjoyed it, but I didn't find it to be role-playing per se. It was tactical combat with your friends, and it was a great time. But they're being told on their way up the ladder, if you will, this is role-playing. And so that's what they expect when they get there. So you have to give them a little more control, or they're really not going to be happy with what you do give them to play, I think.
Yeah, I have a quick story about when I got back into, after taking a little hiatus. The time was 4E was out, and 4E was the big thing, and they were pushing that, and I was an Encounters DM for quite some time at our local store, and there was a situation. I don't remember the exact details of it, but we were, you had the map and all the figures on it. We were moving around, and I was kind of telling the story of what was happening, and I said, "Okay, this thing does this." And one of the players said, "Oh, no, and pulled out a book, says, "You can't do this."
Yeah.
It says it right here on this page. And I get it. It was very, well, think about it. 4E was very, very action response, counteraction, it was very
modified.
Exactly. And so I get it. He was right. But do I want to run a game like that? I'm used to, the DM is telling a story, and this is how it goes. Tell me how you react, and I'll tell you what happens. It was just super funny that after that, I'm like, okay, close my books up, set it on the table. I'm done. Not playing. I'm not doing this.
Oh yeah, old school. The GM would tell the story. DM would tell the story, and the players would affect how the story developed by their actions. Okay.
Yeah.
Any good GM for first edition, you don't have this hard and fast 2 straight lines, and here's where you start and here's where you will end. Campaigns don't run that way. If they do, in fact, I believe it was Harold who told me those are called railroads, and most people don't like them.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
But by the same token, yeah, these days you can get told, oh no, my character can avoid that because of this, this, and this.
Yeah.
It's automatic. It just happens. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess you really don't need a GM. You could just use your computer. I'll be at home if you need me,
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Michael, you want to move on to the next one, or do you want to say something about that? Do you have
well, I mean, it's with something like you said, Encounters, because I used to run Encounters as well.
Yeah.
And, something like that, because you could, the same thing with the living campaigns, because you could end up having players from somewhere else come in, joining in for the first time in your area. And if you play by certain rules that another group isn't going to play, you're going to mess them up. So, there's a good point for playing by the rules as they are. But with pretty much any game, at least, with like home campaigns, you can wing it at times. And it can happen with any edition. with a lot of the enumeration in later systems, you kind of have to really argue the point if you're going to change. Okay, sure, you have this plus, and this plus,
Yeah.
but your work this and this and this is working against you, so that those are nullified.
Yeah.
Whereas with original D&D and BX, which actually I've never played BX or original D&D. I started off with first edition.
Yeah.
You can help and weave the story. Actually, you can help weave the story between the GM and the players with any edition. It just depends on how how cooperative you want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Great points, guys. Great points. Yeah, I think that to me is Tim said it the other day to me. He was just talking about that the DM was the god. That was his world, and when that shifts, yeah. Anyways, so Michael, you talked about this one. You and I want you to elaborate on this point. More versatility. Tell me about that.
Well, with first edition,
Yeah,
you can basically describe what your character is doing. Like for example, what, and your character can do it. If say you have an archer who wants to shoot somebody in the face, from 5 feet away, then that could be done. But in later editions, unless you have the point blank feat or power, whatever it's, then you really can't do it. So
that goes back to our second point.
Yeah. Whereas you have the versatility of first edition, so that if your character can describe it, they can do it. It is one of the rules that I've always GM'd by.
Oh yeah, 100%.
There might be a role for it.
Yeah,
it's like roll, make a dex roll or
dex check. Yeah,
whatever it's relevant.
Yeah.
So you have that versatility because everything isn't codified.
Yeah.
In the earlier editions.
That's a good word, codified. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the more rules you have, the less wiggle room you have. It's true.
Yeah. 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 So, this last point, I think, Michael, you brought this one up too. And I didn't add it to the list, but, on my end, but I firmly believe in it, the nostalgia of it. And then that goes back to the artwork, and that goes back to, I remember the first dice roll I ever did at 7. I just remember it. I remember me and my buddy Jay sitting there, and we didn't have the books, but we made it up. We had played, somebody had played the game, and they said, yeah, this is how you, and it just, that whole nostalgia that, kind of, I've been chasing that first dice roll forever,
Yeah.
And, so anyways, talk a little bit about the nostalgia, please.
It reminds me in one of my courses up at the U, the instructor asked the class, what is nostalgia? And I piped up and said, expensive. And he goes, well, yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, we have a sense of nostalgia because we played it. We play, high school, a lot of our formative years, we played D&D. We've played with different people, different occasions, different locations, and we remember the fun. We don't remember the bad parts, which usually meant fighting over the last slice of pizza.
Yeah.
But we remember the good times. One of the things that I've noticed, especially as I'm getting older, is that I'll hear a song on the radio or on my playlist, and it'll take me back to certain points in my
Man,
life.
will it ever?
And
Yeah.
you know, the same thing is, you know, I get a certain smell, you know, like right after a rain, it reminds me of, you know, some of the fields I used to play in as a kid, and you know, gotta love old book smells. You can get candles for that, by the way. I don't know if that works, but yeah, it's that nostalgia of wanting to at least go back and relive the good times.
Yeah.
Having been playing in your campaign, you know, it's not replacing those memories, but it is adding to them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I had some great games when I was growing up.
Oh,
I had some crappy games as well.
Yeah.
And this is a really good game. I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying this campaign.
Man, that's awesome.
And it's because of you, Angelo.
Over here, yeah.
This guy, yeah,
whatever.
one of those.
And but I'll always remember, you know, those late nights in Brian's basement. You know, as we're sitting around playing. My first dice set, which unfortunately I lost a long time ago. You know, the first set of dice that you had. You know, you remember those. The books, the feeling of having those books in your hand.
Oh my God.
I remember when I got the Fiend Folio, you know, back in the day. I actually can tell you exactly what day it was because it was on the first day that V premiered.
Oh,
way back when. So yeah, I got the Fiend Folio. Then I plopped down on Beanbag, and I'm waiting for V to come on, and I'm just going through it and just devouring it. You know, the artwork, which you had mentioned, you know, especially the Githyanki on the cover, which later editions I'm a lot more disappointed in. You know, some of the art, some of it is fantastic. You know, they're done by great artists, but I think it, like you say, it lacks the grittiness.
Yeah.
The frontier spirit of the game.
Yeah.
Okay, I've only got 2 words for you on the Fiend Folio. Okay, because I love the undead that are.
As long as it's Fiend and Folio, we're fine.
Okay, well, no, the 2 words are bunny nips. Okay, really, come on, guys. When I was having such a great time when mine came in, and then I read bunny nips, I was like, somebody's not trying, really. Bunny nips, you know, my goodness. It is unbeatable for undead, though. Oh my God, are there some cool undead in Fiend Folio?
Oh, in Fiend Folio, they're nasty ones. Isn't the Revenant in?
Yeah, I don't actually get nostalgia the way you guys do because I never took a hiatus. I've been gaming ever since '76. You know,
I took a little diversion in a little detour in the '90s, late '90s. Yeah, so
no detours,
which only made me skip 3rd edition, and which I actually played 3rd edition, but I just didn't get heavily into it. And yeah, so
I was originally going to try and write for the New Adventurers League some tournament modules that they could play at cons, and then they told me, Chris, because I turned in some preliminary synopsis and outlines. These are all mysteries, and I said, yeah, I write a lot of mysteries these days. Well, that doesn't really work for the Adventurers League because you can run the same adventure more than once at the same con. And I looked at him and said, what? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can put your character in the same adventure more than once. And I thought, well, that's just nuts, but okay. You know.
Actually, no, you can't.
Well, you could then, I guess.
Because, yeah, it's with Living City, Living Greyhawk, any of these others, your one character can only play that adventure once.
But that's not Adventurers
You can
League.
have another character that can go through that same adventure.
Okay, but that's not Adventurers League, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like ever
when they
since
first
Living
started
City
Adventures
from
League-
RPGA on through, your one character can only play in certain adventure
RPG,
points.
I know, didn't do that. But when they first started up Adventures League, they let people run through because they didn't have enough adventures. And I was like, white flag, I'm done. I still play. I enjoy playing them, but why write a mystery if somebody can run it again, even with a different character? They know all the answers. There are no gotcha moments when you already know the module.
Yeah.
And I love gotcha. And I'm sorry. I love gotcha moments that are gotcha moments that the characters have. Oh, I outsmarted the GM gotcha moments. Those are awesome. They're, players don't, I didn't say this out loud, so you can't repeat that. But even as GMs, we love it when you have gotcha moments on us. We do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well,
movie, by the way.
Well, I think we covered all of our points. I know there's more out there. There's, like we just were talking about, the artwork for me is and the grittiness of the books and
you know what? If you're gaming, you're doing something right. I don't care what edition you do. Just you're doing something.
I have a nephew that he would get together with his buddies, and they all play 5th edition, and that's what they were cut on. And man, they play, and I'm so happy that and I think partly why I'm skewed is this is what I came up on.
Could be,
So
well, I mean, you look at anything else that you've grown up with, music, books, movies.
Yeah.
You're always going to have that nostalgia effect. That oh wow, the music these days, and it's like the movies these days, and get off my lawn. It's natural. It's happened to our parents. It's happening to us. It'll happen to them too.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
It's happened to Chris.
Well, I have nostalgia for friends that aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
But think of it this way: as we get older, that Alzheimer's going to set in.
That's true.
And every time we can play all those great adventures for the first time again.
Hey, that's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I guess we'll close here. Any closing remarks from our DM and friends?
Again, it's not about the edition, but first edition forever. It's okay.
Exactly. Well,
Greyhawk forever.
Yeah, there it is. All right. Well, you guys, thanks for coming on. Thanks for talking to it. I will say appreciate everybody who likes and subscribes and views and comments and all that stuff. We're just here to talk about old school gaming. All right, you guys, take care.